Disaster area here. It seems like these videos are starting to become a regular occurrence. I don't know if we can count on that, but this is a bit more of a series that I've got in mind, although we'll see how regular it is. It kind of depends on how many great games I see. Uh, but this is the Immortal games of ADV 50 or Advanced 50. I don't know how you'd actually pronounce it. I tend to, like, in my brain, I read it as like ADV 50. Um, but yeah, this is I want to cover just great games. That's all it is. I just want to go through some great games. Uh, Not all will be played by me, but the first couple will be, and this is one of them. Some of the ones with me in, I won't be winning, but can't promise anything with the first one. Uh, but I think this is a really cool game to showcase how ADV 50's like different balance and different options and stuff can lead to some really cool, unique options being viable that you don't see in almost any other tier. And in this one, we're featuring a game with the Fabled drummer in it. Uh, should be pretty clear from the prompt on screen exactly what Pokemon that is, and it's curiously not the only belly drum user in the tier. But what exactly it does? Well, I think I can show you the team that I've used. So in this game, it is me playing against PK Leech, and this is the team that I've used. It's a sample team at this point, but I built like all the samples at the moment because more people still need to build to a high standard. But getting there, I think there's like one or two teams in the samples actually that aren't by me. But anyway, as you can see here, this has got a drum fable on it. What makes it really unique is it's not necessarily a one-time thing, since it's got soft-boiled and obviously great natural bulk. So this is invested in attack and speed with like a little bit in HP, and it's still very tanky because it's Clefable. In terms of what's going on with the rest of the team, this is mostly about being defensively solid, wearing down Fortress. So when you want to wear down Fortress, you want to use Pokemon that instead of one hit, two hit KOing it, like 3 or 4 hit KO, so that they'll land chip on it, but you won't. But Fortress will actually want to come in and get worn down, as Fortress is like one of the few things that's a really hard stop to Clefable. Another one that is as well is Steelix, and the team has Curse Fire, Blast Mark. It's a standard set, but it helps to wear down Steelix, as does SDR Maldo helps to wear down both of those Pokemon. One other thing as well is Subpass Firo. Obviously, if you can pass a substitute to Clefable, then it's even more dangerous. Fortress isn't beating Clefable if it's weakened and Clefable's behind a sub. It's just not how it goes, which is part of the fun. So Subpass is one of those ways of creating a big threat in return for your opponent setting up spikes in this tier. As the spikers can't phase, they can boom, but they can't phase. Then that does open up different avenues to exploit them, and setting up on them, in this case with Subpass, is one of those methods. So let's jump to the game. I'm on the left and PK Leech is on the right. Let's get into it. I'll try and analyze things turn by turn to some degree. So obviously, in retrospect, I know what his team is. And to a degree at the time, I even knew because he was playing with samples. But clearly lead indicates offense. There's not much to it. It's the only other spiker in the tier at this point, as we dumped Cacturn for being completely useless. But it's got more speed, different typing, some cool moves in its move pool, a bit more power as well, compared to Fortress. So, yeah, what it tends to indicate is it's an offensive team that I'm facing, which you would think Drum Fable shouldn't be that useful against. It might be able to wall some stuff, but that's about all. So here I knew that he was going to get his spikes and sludge bombs, all I could really do. I just wanted to wear down Glalie because I've got a spinner in the back. Try and hope to get off a spin later and just prevent it from getting 3 layers to start off with. So get that and hits, no poison. Oftentimes they run Lum. Yeah, I can't remember the exact plays. What I do remember of the game, besides sort of how it finished, was that actually I did make quite a few mistakes early on in the game. I don't remember if this will be one of them. Obviously, there's a threat of explosion there. But yeah, you can see there what I did was I went to Armaldo because that resists explosion. And if you went for more Spike Slayers getting greedy, then I could threaten to spin. I'd also threaten Rock Slide, which would hit Mistravus. What might happen might be that he gets up 2 layers and then booms, which is still preventing him getting 3 layers, and that's pretty good. But what we get instead is Aggron comes in. He decides he doesn't want to give up Glalie just yet, which is perfectly reasonable, and brings in his Aggron, which is an excellent answer to Muck, unless it's Focus Punching on the switch, which if I had Focus Punch, I probably would have used it turn 1 anyway for that heightened damage against Glalie as well. So yeah, good switch from him. Armaldo's rock weak, Aggron's very ground weak, and Armaldo, because a rapid spin Armaldo is going to be rapid spin, rock slide, earthquake, sword stance normally, with somewhat offensive investment on this team as well. It's a defensive team, so it's either going to be Taunt Toxic or Choice Band. Probably, I'm guessing that I went Whiskash here. Let's see what the move was. No, I just go for the spin. I decide that I want to get those spikes off straight away, which I don't think is really the best play. As I said, I made some mistakes. Like Leech is making great moves so far. He could have gone Mistravus here. I'll just spoiler. There's a Mistravus, but when there's a Glalie, there's almost certainly a Missy because it's the best offensive spin blocker. There is Burnett, but it's slower, frailer, just a bit weaker. Well, Mistravus is also pretty weak, but Mistravus has got it's got Levitate and it's faster, and those are just huge. So it's almost certainly a Mistravus in the back. But thing is, it doesn't really beat a healthy Armaldo 1-on-1, so it's not really like a great. It's a reasonable decision not to go for it like straight away, but at the same time, it does give up ground to me here. But presume that there's like a strong rock slide coming here, and that'll do a lot. And yeah, on that team, it's not even banded; it just does that much because Aggron's pretty strong. And yeah, Armaldo, while it has good defense, but it's not very invested in here. And yeah, so I basically gave up my Armaldo almost completely just to get rid of spikes, which he's going to be able to get again later. So in retrospect, maybe I needed to Earthquake or something. I may Earthquake here even. Yeah, since I've got a Drum Fable, probably I do want to Earthquake if he lets me. But let's see if I just made the straightforward play or if I made some kind of a double. Goes Mistravus after, and to be fair, after taking 85%, Mistravus should kill with almost anything. Yeah, in the chat, although you can't see it, maybe if I move things like this, be sneaky. Yeah, you can see here that he felt at the time like he made a bad play. But he got rid of most of the health on Armaldo. He still got Glalie to get spikes up. So it's not like he had exploded Glalie or lost it and then got spun on. So just yeah, perfectly reasonable play, I think, in retrospect as well. But yeah, Missy comes in. Missy can do a few things. and it really depends on the team. Since this looks like offense, there's a few different options. It's if it was a sun team, sunny day. If it's a rain team, rain dance. If it's neither, subcar mind with psychic and thunderbolt. Those are your main options. So either an attack or a rain dance coming here or sunny day, and we see nothing. Instead, that was a bold move. Threatening to KO Armado and figuring that I'd value keeping it alive, which in retrospect was also, well, I guess what sort of happened was Missy's not a hard mon to switch into, really. Subcom Mine can be annoying, even for this team, but yeah, pretty easy to actually switch into it here. So I do that, and he exploits that with the Great Double, gets Glalie back in because he wants those spikes. Presumably he spikes here. As leftovers is revealed, probably a Thunder Wave. Yeah, so since it's not Lum, I can land status on it. And then, Armaldo does a better job of forcing it out. Yeah, and I do bring in Armaldo, but instead of staying in, I think at 64% they may have survived, but they're not going to get 2 layers really. There is the thing. They're not going to get all the way up to 3 layers and prevent Armaldo from switching in, which is what they'd need. He? Yeah, I think he's a he, which is what he'd need. Let's use pronouns. Complicated things these days, aren't they? But yeah, in comes a lantern. Instead, basically as a lantern switching. So that suggests a rain team. I mean, I know from the samples this is a rain team. I know from the game it's a rain team, but yeah, rain teams usually lack anything other than a lantern to take on opposing lanterns. It's like a big problem for them, to be honest. But yeah, that was the plan basically to do that. But it also covered an Armaldo double as well, pretty reasonably. And yeah, Armaldo's forced out at 15%. On this team, it's Hidden Power Grass. Now that's a rarity on Lantern, and it's also a complete mistake of mine to switch in there. But so the thing is with Lantern is you almost always run Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, a stab, usually Hydro Pump, sometimes Surf. And then the last slot is usually Thunderwave or Toxic to annoy like Meganium, Whiskash, Clefable, just general switchings, other Lantern, of course. But on this team, it's HP Grass, which sort of, it does work alongside Aggron, but for me personally, I've gone back to using Toxic on my Grain Lanterns because I think it's just better versus opposing Lantern, and that's really what you need to optimize. But yeah, he HP Grasses, that is his best move against my Lantern since he doesn't have a status move. I switch in Whiskash and get owned. So in retrospect, yeah, I remember that this is a big joke. It's obviously like a really poor decision. It's my Aggron answer as well. As we've seen, it's like a left-face variant, so there's no way it's getting through physically defensive Whiskash, which is what this is. So because of that, I really should have gone either my own Whiskash, my own Lantern, or gone to Muck. Muck just draws in like the Aggron again though, so it's neither here nor there really. Probably my own Lantern might have been the best option and just duel it out. But yeah, you can see I kind of wanted to go for something else, and it just didn't work. So yeah, presumably I go to Muck here, or something to take the HP Grasses coming. Yeah, I do. He goes to Mstravis. It wasn't necessary, but it wasn't, well, it certainly didn't work out badly for him, is what I'll say. But it also wasn't necessary. He could have just like Hydro Pumped and been in about as good of a spot. Even though Mistravus resists poison, so it does take on Muck okay. You kind of need like a dedicated set with like Psychic and Pain Split to answer it. So really, Aggron's going to be his only like proper Muck answer. So with a rain team, you really just want to chip Muck if you can and chip Lantern. So those are those two Pokemon I've revealed are already like huge problems for him in this matchup. Obviously, like every team's gonna have like special rules, but like Lantern's public enemy number one. Muck is can be played around, but it also takes a lot of work to wear it down because it's just incredibly specially tanky. Especially in this tier as well, it's invested like that. So you have like HP, attack, and Spadef investment on the standard set, and then drop speed. So that you're running Fire Blast, so you hit Fortress and Stiglitz and so on. Almost always. So yeah, he has to double out anyway. But it's like one of those mistakes that's like, it is a mistake. Let's go back. It is a mistake, but it's not one of those mistakes that's going to lose you the game. It's just like an inaccuracy, I guess. I feel like since I've already stolen the words "immortal game" from chess, I might as well sort of like steal inaccuracy and blunder and ideas like words like that to describe the quality of the moves. But that was like, it was an inaccuracy, but how much does it matter? How much does it matter? We'll see. Speaking of terrible moves, yeah, I tried to pivot Furo in there. And see, that didn't work. As I said, I know it's funny to like share an Immortal game where it's like gone this badly this early on. It's like turn 11. It's like just back against the wall almost already. But because I got Hidden Power Grass, that HP Grass put in work, which Cash was like severely dented. So I couldn't switch into the Aggron that was forced in. I didn't make a heads-up play, and then Earthquake isn't really forced from Aggron, because even if I curse up once, Earthquake's still going to do a nice amount afterwards, and Curse doesn't actually boost my attacks unless I've got HP Ground to hit Aggron with. So it's really not a big deal for him to predict there. It's completely reasonable. I tried to pivot into Firo. It doesn't do me that much good, but probably what I do is be able to get a Hidden Power Ground off and sacrifice it or something like that. So really, I should have just like sacrificed Armaldo, because why did I need it? I didn't. Yeah, like Firo's not necessarily going to be great in this matchup, but Armaldo's at 3% after spikes and Firo's at full. So yeah, it wasn't a good decision. In comes my own Lantern. As it is a problem for Rain, game's still far from over because Lantern is just such a menace. So it's a pretty free Hydro Pump here. And in comes Lantern, or Surf in this case, actually. Surf on this team. Yeah, and you got the idea. So probably I just go for T-Wave here as well. And he tries to double again. Thinking he'll go to Muck and not want to get HP Grasp, but it's just like that was a bit more of a mistake. Now Aggron is paralyzed, and then that means that like Whiscash can actually handle it better as now it outspeeds. So does Armaldo, as does Muck, although it's still not beating it. But yeah, goes back into Lantern. It's just, you kind of have to force the 1v1 here. That team can't really do anything else. But he goes for another double and he catches me this time. It's like, caught me trying to pivot. And here I go. No, I don't do anything crazy yet. I just sacrifice Whiscash to bring in Armaldo. So that was sort of the benefit of completely sacking Furo for nothing. Was I still had, Whiscash to sack, I guess. Yeah, it probably would have been better to sack Whiscash earlier instead if I wanted to keep the spin option alive. But yeah, I've got the threat here. Threaten to spin, threaten to Earthquake, threaten to hit Mistravus with Rock Slide, and I do nail it, as it is predictable that it comes in. Because you don't really want to give up spikes here. It's just, like, not again. Glalie is at 64%. It can't get more than a layer up against anything. It can't switch into something, get up a layer, and go. So protecting those spikes is almost forced. Rock Slide doesn't one-hit KO, so going with Stravus there is safe. It does the job, and it forces out Armaldo, or forces me to sacrifice it, whatever I go with. And yeah, in comes Lantern. His hidden power is used. since it's a rain team, it's HP water. Since it's boosted by rain, it hits like Camelot and stuff, and Steelix and Aggron. It's not bad. It's not like super necessary. It could be like Psychic or something instead on those teams as well, but it's certainly it does something. But here it's not terribly helpful. So either he goes Rain Dance or he brings in his own Lantern again. You can see though that we both kind of have trouble breaking each other. My Muck can't get past his Aggron, and his team can't get past my Lantern. And every time Aggron comes in, I'm basically forced to sacrifice something. What I went for here, though, is this is where I think the story really begins. So there's been some plays, there's been some mistakes, inaccuracies, but this is where we are on the clock, right? So I have lost most of my team, but I've got my 2 special walls are still alive. My unrevealed Drum Fable is hiding there. And I've got a weakened Armaldo that, if is very lucky, might get to spin at some point. He's got half of his team paralyzed. Lantern, Aggron clearly paralyzed and chipped, so it's hard to get more spikes. Mistravis is weakened, but it's done its job. And what's remaining are 2 Rain Sweepers, Mantine and Huntail. Yes, in ADV 50, Rain Dance Mantine is a real thing, because your Swift Swimmers are Huntail, Mantine, and Cabatops. Its special bulk is nice. Sort of counterpunch against like solar beam users, for example. It's good against Whiscash. It's got some nice traits. I don't understand him switching it in here though. It doesn't. Actually, I do. He was trying to catch an Armaldo double, which was quite bold. But he didn't want to risk Mistravis, and he figured he's got 2 Rain Sweepers left. So if he can catch Armaldo and force it out, then it won't be able to heal up the spikes damage again. So that's the idea, is he wants to guarantee the spikes, and then wall me with Aggron, trade Lanterns, and try and go to town with the Rain Sweepers. That's kind of his game plan at this point. But I have something different in mind. He does try and push through with Mantine, which again I feel is like a bit of a mistake. But it does do substantial damage. So it's one approach. But he just comes in and brings in Aggron here. Now, what's interesting here, obviously I'm cursed. If I double check the team real quick, we are on this team, we're Curse Rest. So the only move I've got to hit the Aggron with is Fire Blast. I go for a bit of a strange maneuver here, but this is the sort of thing that really makes it a game worth watching. So Rain's up, Fire Blast is weakened. How am I getting through Aggron with this team? How am I making any progress against this team? If I trade Lanterns with him, then Muck's still walled. Yeah, I mean, Lantern's still walled. But I have a Clefable in the back, and it's my only option here, really, at this point, is how do I go for a Clefable sweep? It's got Meteor Mash, so Misdreavus isn't a huge problem. These Pokemon are paralyzed, so they're not a huge problem. And if I'm out of the rain, then I can beat Huntail if I've got a Drum Up. So if I can get an opportunity, then Drum Fable could sweep. Where is that opportunity? This Lantern here. As we said, usually they have Toxic or Thunder Wave. This one has HP Grass, so I know there's no status move on it. With Clefable's Great Bulk, I can drum up on it for free. So that's going to be the game plan, but can I pull it off? I also want to get through Aggron. Return does fuck all to it. Oh, I don't know well, it's not like I'm getting ads, so I don't know why I shouldn't swear. But yeah, it's not doing anything to Aggron with Return. Meteor Mash is about as good as it gets. If I pull up the calc, we'll see what I'm thinking about here, though. we pull up the Fable against Aggron, or probably be Taunt Toxic. Without boosts, that does like approximately negative damage. A +6, 2-hit KOing. It's not super impressive, but that's a damage range to aim at. I don't... Like, the perfect Drum Fable sweep is... This Aggron is slower than me, or it's slower than me anyway, but this Aggron is weakened enough that I can KO it with Medium Mash and not get Toxic and then stalled out, possibly. Or worn down, or whatever. Just, like, get rid of any chance of breaking this thing. Before it breaks him. But the only way I'm hitting it is with this Muck. And in the rain, that does nothing. I mean, I didn't need to calc to show you that, but you can see I don't... If I want to wear down this Aggron, I'm not doing it under rain. Under regular weather, it's not enough to beat Aggron, but 2 hits of this... Okay, what, like 58? That's at least 52%, which puts it in medium mash range. So, how do I get the matchup I want? Step 1, sacrifice Armaldo. It's just... That's all I've got left to sacrifice. Sacrifice quite a bit at this point. And I get Lantern in, which is a threat with Rain Boosted Hydro, well, Rain Boosted Surf, threatening to one-hit KO Aggron. I go for a double as Lantern comes in, tries to make the safe move. I stay in, I Sludge Bomb. I guess this was anticipating that he'd want to get like a water move off on me, since the rain was up. Sludge Bomb does a lot, but not a lot. Like, 45%, it's a good amount of damage, but it's not a 2-hit KO. Goes for it and misses, which is lucky for me. And you can imagine here, Aggron comes in, I Fire Blast. You know, like those games that you want to see where just these amazing out predictions are exactly just like what makes the game from like a lost position after lots of chokes to just like everybody thinking you're a genius. This is one of those, to a degree, this is one of those kind of games. Obviously, it sucks for Leech sort of being on the other side of it. He's been making like the conservative plays and assuming that he can handle whatever I've got last, which is like completely fair. But we'll see what happens. But he does get like jokingly, he gets like a little annoyed that I share this game a lot because things don't necessarily go so well for him in it. But I remind him that that it takes 2 players to make a masterpiece, and don't worry, there is a game that I'll be covering where he beats me, and it's an absolutely beautiful game as well. It takes 2 players to make a masterpiece. In chess, it takes someone to make a mistake for somebody to lose. But it takes both players to make a beautiful game. And you just love the poetry of it. And this is that poetic moment where I made the doubles to stall out the rain turns, and then fire blasts to hit the Aggron to get the valuable chip that I need, so that I don't have to wager on like full powers and stuff here. Muck is just healthy enough thanks to dodging that Hydro that Earthquake doesn't quite KO, so I do get off another Fire Blast. But had I made that prediction, having taken that Hydro Pump, and it still worked out, then Aggron would be at just under, well, at about 50% after like a ton of leftovers here, and more or less within Drum Fable range. But I get off a third Fire Blast. We basically trade Aggron for Muck, which makes sense, because, what's he going to do? He doesn't think he needs Aggron for anything else. And why would he? And it's also his best response to Muck. He doesn't have anything he could switch in there, even if he wanted to, really. Well, maybe at 10%, but And I've just realized that I was recording this on the wrong screen. Do you know what? We're going to go back a few turns. I'm just going to let it play out like a little bit. Oh my goodness. See, like this video thing is harder than people give it credit for, isn't it? It's not my job. I'm just like doing it casually. It's interesting to see the mistakes, but I guess you get to like actually watch it just at full speed, sacking Armaldo to bring in Lantern, doubling with spikes up, just to get myself in with Mark against Aggron, with Fire Blast hitting it outside of Rain to get the chip that I need to KO it with +6 Meteor Mash later on in the game. So let's see that in action. Right. So this is where we were when I was like completely just like looking at the screen wrong. You know, I wonder how does the battle thing look on the calc screen? I'm just like doing this. Okay, I shouldn't be doing this right now. You just gotta love me as I am. I'm a fucking idiot sometimes. Right. Lantern's coming in here. It's the opportunity to strike. It's time for Belly Drum Clefable, everybody. The Fabled Sweeper is in. Now, it's not all smooth sailing. The Mistravus on these rain teams here, it carries Taunt usually, and Rain Dance. So what ideally he wants to do is prevent me from soft boiling and KO me with Huntail Hydro Pump, which if we see if I remember to change the scenes properly this time. If we hop to the calc, we calculate Huntail against that Clefable. Let's put Mystic Water on there as well for good measure. Pardon me, for good measure. Then in Rain, it does a heck of a lot of damage, if I dare say so. It's a heck of a lot of damage. So if we can get Rain up, then Huntail will swoop. So if I Meteor Mash this Mistravus, while it sets up Rain and Huntail comes in, the game is all but lost. Our Lanterns basically get traded. And then probably Glalie finishes things off with an explosion. So I can't Meteor Mash here. I can soft boiled, but he could taunt me. And truth be told, is I think that this is the key moment, the key mistake of the game would be not going for taunt here. But then if he does taunt and I Meteor Mash, then Huntail doesn't win. See, it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. But Rain Dance gives him play whatever I do. If I Meteor Mash, I've lost. If I return or I soft boiled, then there's still a game to be played. And that's what happens. The game is not over yet. He Rain Dances. I soft boiled, anticipating that he's going to go for it. So still an element of prediction, but there's also a fully healthy Clefable here. Now, this thing, it's got Thunder on it, as well, to abuse the rain a little bit. Certainly nice to have. Like, often it would run Thunderbolt anyway, like on the Subcar mindset. Hits stuff like Mantine. It's a good move. So having a set here where it's all of its attacks are boosted by Thunder. It carries Taunt, by the way, for Fortress. In case you weren't clear, you wouldn't run a fire move on a Mistravus. You can't run Subcon Mind alongside Rain Dance. It's the best option to prevent Fortress from spiking up or toxicking when you switch into spin block it. So yeah, Thunder Taunt is the remainder of that set. So basically, since play continues, what he gets to do is keep on thundering. If I KO him while Rain is up, and I'm at 80%, 85%, 75%, whatever. After taking a Thunder, I'm in range of this Hydro Pump. We just calc the, we don't need to calculate. Let's just see the, oh my god, I did it again. I'm so stupid, man. I'm so stupid. But the, yeah, let's just, we'll rewatch as well here, from here again. So yeah, with that Rain Lance that he gets up, still gets to fish with Thunder. It's got a 30% paralysis chance on each attack. And if he gets it, then that diminishes my chances of winning like almost entirely again. He's got like can just like outspeed and KO with like a bunch of different. Well, I would say the game is not over. The game is not completely over if he gets Thunder Paralysis, but it's massively helpful. And here he gets to fish for it because I can't KO him. Now, what I do end up going for is I just like return into nothing. The reason for that is because I also can't let in Huntail. I can't let him like go for like a ballsy ballsy like try and bring it in. Have to at least like KO something if I do. I don't know. It's hard to say again, like, was it like really the right play? But basically, like, I wanted to store Rain turns. And, you know, I was at full. So if he does, like, go in with Huntail there, then still playing Pokemon. If he sacrifices, Aggron, well, he can't sacrifice Lantern because he needs that for my own Lantern. Doesn't want to sacrifice Glalie because it has Boom. So, and he can't sacrifice Misdreavus or Hunter. So he could potentially like sacrifice Aggron. And I don't think that does. I don't know if Return would KO it or not, but I would be at full. I could potentially like return into the Huntail and then go out to Lantern and try and bring Clefable again later. Or potentially like even like after my own like Clefable dies and finish off whatever he's got left. So yeah, I feel alright. I feel like I've still got chances if he switches to something KOs. But if I take a Thunder damage and KOs Misdreavus, then I could also be cleaned up. Oh, I don't know. Even then, even if like Huntail comes in, even if like Misdreavus is lost and Huntail comes in, then well, I guess I get to go to my own Lantern, but then it gets dicey against his and so on, and it's just these are the kind of turns I'd say you can think so deeply about them. And ultimately, there's not really like a right answer. Like, whatever happens, I think both players still have chances. But there's also a massive threat on the field that is threatening to sweep, even though I'm down to just 2 Pokemon. The ball is in my court here. It's the ball's in my court. To be clear, of course, Medium Mash like completely one-hit KOs Misdreavus here when I go for it. But I think here's probably the turn that I do it. Goes for another Thunder. He is unlucky and doesn't get a single paralysis, even though he has about 63% chance, 64%, no, about 2 in 3 chance of getting it, roughly, it's close enough. So I was lucky there, but again, like, it doesn't necessarily like end the game because this is like 1 in 4 chance of hitting the attacks through paralysis and so on. So anyway, in comes Huntail then, as he's out of options, and that medium mash comes at the perfect time, and there's nothing he can do. So yeah, maybe what he had to do there was like sacrifice Aggron and go for Misdreavus Mind Games again, but if you Rain Dances again while I'm at full, then it's a different kettle of fish, because I can just KO the Misdreavus and then KO Huntail and outspeed everything else. Interesting, this team, I've only got one Paralysis Spreader and Lantern, but I managed to paralyze half the team. To be fair, the only one that would outspeed me anyway is Glalie, but yeah, I just, that's part of what makes it Immortal, is it's a Clefable sweep. When do you get to see a belly drum Clefable sweep? Ever. In GSC, there's like some tiers, like possibly in OU, possibly in lower tiers, although I'm really not so sure, where Drum Fable with Soft Boiled is a thing, but you almost never see it. Here it's like Clefable's a standard. Clefable's a standard of this tier. The drum set's legitimate, and this is it in action. Counter sweeping when I was down from 2-5 to 2-0. Just a beautiful game. Not the most perfectly played game, but that's part of the joy of Pokemon, is like these little imperfections, sometimes these bigger mistakes, but in the end they lead to this beautiful game. It's like these elements of both. It's the calculation, but like, oh, let me plan this, and what damage rolls do I need? And then there's also just the plays to make it happen, to make that strategy come together. It was like all of these moments where my opponent, if they made the right kind of like ballsy prediction or whatever, then all of a sudden things change. There's stuff like that. But in the end, this is what happened. These are the decisions that were made. This was the luck that happened. And this was the Fabled sweep. The Fabled Drummer. I was going to come up with a pun, but no. Just, I hope you enjoyed the Drum Fable sweep, and I hope it gives you like a little bit more appreciation for like the depth of this metagame and how these novel things that you don't get to see in standard play, these different ideas, these different approaches to competitive Pokemon, these different teams, like different, you just don't get to see drum sweeps like ever in almost any metagame. The best example I can think of actually is Bunnies, which is a doubles OU thing in Gen 6, but that's like a completely different beast as well. It's a fascinating thing. But anyway, I'm really rambling, aren't I? This is not my best video, and I'm sorry that you had to like suffer through like me being like completely incompetent with the screens. But yeah, that was an adventure. I hope you enjoyed the game. I hope this inspired you to check out the tier a bit more. And I just hope you enjoyed watching a beautiful game of Pokemon. There's more coming.